I matched with Damon on Tinder on a Thursday night I should have spent alone. It was raining in Portland, that soft, endless drizzle that makes the city glow like it's underwater. I'd had 2 glasses of wine and too much silence. Loneliness feels different when it echoes off the walls, heavier like static that never dies down. His profile appeared between a man holding a fish and another wearing a Halloween mask. Damon was neither. He wore a dark suit, a crooked smile, and eyes that looked like they knew how to read people, or devour them. I told myself it was confidence. Now I know it was hunger. His first message wasn't clever, just simple. You look like someone who appreciates quiet places. I remember staring at that line for a long time before typing back, maybe, depends who I'm quiet with. He replied instantly, dinner, Friday, you choose the place, that should have been a red flag. But confidence has a way of disguising control. I'm Valerie Monroe, 27, marketing assistant for a startup that sells sustainable luxury, which basically means expensive things made to make rich people feel ethical. I'd just ended things with Tommy, my ex, 3 months prior. Tommy was the kind of man who punched walls when he couldn't punch words into shape. Leaving him wasn't brave. It was survival. So when Damon asked me out, I said yes because I wanted to believe I was still capable of wanting. He picked me up in a black Tesla that smelled like leather and ozone. Inside it was quiet, that unnatural quiet that happens when expensive cars erase their own sound. He smiled, glanced over, and said, "You look even better in person." It sounded rehearsed but pleasant. Dinner was at Rosso's on Hawthorne, one of those dimly lit places where the lighting flatters everyone and the waiters pretend to care. He ordered for both of us. I told myself it was charming. He poured the wine, refilled it too often. I remember laughing, that warm, careless kind of laughter that comes from a full stomach and a hollow heart. The last clear image I have of that night was him leaning forward, his hand brushing mine across the table. "You're exactly what I've been looking for, Valerie," he said. Then darkness. When I woke up, the light wasn't candlelight anymore. It was fluorescent, cold, steady. My head throbbed, mouth dry, tongue coated with something bitter. I tried to sit up, but my wrists didn't move. They were strapped, thick nylon bands biting into skin. The air smelled sterile, mixed with the faint sweetness of something chemical. Damon was humming. A low, content hum that vibrated through the silence. He stood a few feet away, arranging surgical tools on a tray. Scalpels, forceps, something that glinted when he turned. His sleeves were rolled up. There was no sign of the suit. Just a gray t-shirt, his forearms flecked with what looked like dried paint. "Don't worry," he said without looking at me. "You're special. I never waste something beautiful." My voice broke. "Where am I?" He smiled faintly as though the question was sweet. "Somewhere safe." "Don't ruin it by screaming." I screamed anyway. He didn't flinch. He turned, lifted a small recorder, pressed play. A woman's voice spilled out, muffled sobbing, then static. He stopped it quickly. She didn't listen either. I wanted to faint. Instead, my body did the opposite. Adrenaline made everything too bright, too sharp. Every sound became unbearable. The hum of the light. His breathing. The faint buzz of a fly somewhere near the ceiling. "You don't have to do this," I whispered. "Oh, I do." He stepped closer. I could see my reflection in the blade he held. Warped, trembling, then footsteps. Heavy. Above us. A door slamming open. A gunshot. Damon staggered back. I heard a woman's voice, ragged, panicked. "Run if you want to live." My body moved before my brain did. I pulled against the straps until they tore skin, until something gave. My wrist slipped free. She was there, a woman maybe my age, bruised, bleeding from her temple, holding a pistol with both shaking hands. "Go," she shouted. Her name, I later learned, was Helena. We ran through a narrow hallway that smelled of rust and rain. The exit door slammed behind us, and suddenly we were outside. The storm pelting our faces, the asphalt slick under our feet. I looked back once. The basement window glowed briefly, then went dark. When the police arrived hours later, the basement was empty. No Damon, no tools, no blood. They found only one thing. A white rose. Fresh, placed neatly on the table where I'd been strapped down. I tried to rebuild my life. Tried therapy, new locks, a new apartment overlooking a busier street. I even cut my hair short, thinking maybe he'd remember the old me, not this one. The nightmares stayed. In them, Damon was always close, the hum of his voice merging with the city's distant sirens. Sometimes I'd wake with the scent of antiseptic still in my nose. Helena vanished after the police report. No number, no address, just a name that faded like smoke. 3 months later, I got an email from an unknown sender. Subject line: "Do you believe in second chances?" The message was blank except for a single attachment, a photo. It was me. Taken from the street below my apartment, I moved again. Then Tommy found me. He called from a blocked number, left voicemails I couldn't bear to delete because the police said I needed proof. "You think you can hide, Val? I know your smell. I'll find you." The night he did, the air was heavy, like the city itself was holding its breath. I woke to the sound of glass breaking. My body reacted before my brain did, grabbing the phone, whispering 911, but then a voice cut through the dark. "Valerie, it's me, Tommy." I could see his silhouette in the living room, the shape of the crowbar in his hand, the drunken sway of his movements. "Please, don't," I said, backing away. He sneered. "You always said you'd rather die than be with me again. Guess you're halfway there." The floorboards creaked behind him. He turned, and there he was, Damon. I don't know how he got in. He moved like he'd been waiting for this moment all along. No hesitation, no noise, just sudden, efficient violence. The sound of impact, blunt, final. Tommy collapsed without a word. I screamed, but no sound came out. Damon turned to me, his face calm, almost relieved. "You see, Valerie? You always needed me." He stepped close enough for me to smell the faint trace of copper on his hands. He brushed a strand of hair from my face, his touch almost tender. Then he was gone. By the time the police arrived, there was no sign of him. No prints, no trace of forced entry. Tommy's blood on the floor, yes, but nothing else. They asked if I knew who'd done it. I lied. I said no. How could I explain that the man who'd kidnapped me also saved me? That my fear and my safety had the same name? Days blurred. Nights bled together. I stopped trusting mirrors and the way my reflection seemed to flinch before I did. I started thinking about Helena again, wondering if she'd been real or if my mind had conjured her in that basement to give me a way out. Then one evening, as the sun fell in stripes across the floor, someone slid an envelope under my door. No handwriting. Inside was a single Polaroid, Tommy's body, and behind him, blurred, was Damon's face, smiling, serene. I called the police. They said it was likely a sick prank, maybe someone online. They didn't see the pattern carved faintly into the lower corner of the photo, a rose drawn in black ink. That night, I heard humming again. Faint, coming from somewhere in the walls. I pressed my ear against the plaster. It stopped. I left the TV on after that, needing noise to fill the gaps. Every knock at the door made me jump. Every passerby's reflection felt like it lingered too long. Sometimes I imagine he's still out there, not watching to harm me, but guarding me, waiting for another threat to step too close. It's a comfort and a curse. I see him in crowds sometimes. The flicker of a dark suit, a face half turned, always far enough to make me doubt myself. The therapists say it's trauma, that the mind invents familiarity and fear, but then who leaves the roses? They appear every few months and on the windowsill, the car hood, once even beside my bed. Always fresh, always white. Last week, one came wrapped in black silk with a note tucked beneath the stem. Some things can't die. Some are meant to protect. I keep thinking about the night Tommy died, went about how Damon didn't kill me when he could have. Maybe that's worse. Maybe mercy from a monster is just another form of control. I've thought about ending it, moving again, disappearing completely. But what if he follows? What if he's already there, waiting for me to need saving again? Because that's what he wants. The chance to play hero to his own horror story. Tonight I heard footsteps in the hall. Slow, familiar. I didn't move. Didn't breathe, then a soft knock. 3 times. When I finally opened the door, there was no one there. Only another white rose. Petals trembling in the breeze from the open window at the end of the corridor. The wind carried a faint sound. Low, steady, unmistakable. Humming. Now, every time I hear that sound, in the hum of the refrigerator, the pipes, the city's pulse, I know what it means. He's still here, waiting for the next danger to come for me. Or maybe he's the danger now. Either way. When the door knocks again, I don't know if I'll run this time. because rescue and ruin sound the same when they whisper your name. I always said I'd never bring a first date home. It was one of those promises you make to yourself after enough bad experiences. A rule built out of fear pretending to be wisdom. My apartment was supposed to be the one place untouched by strangers, but loneliness has a voice and it gets louder at night. I'm Shelley Grant, 33 marketing coordinator in Burlington, Vermont. My life was quiet, organized, small. The kind of life that looks peaceful from the outside but hums with low-grade static underneath. Most nights I'd come home to the 5th floor of my building, pour a glass of red wine, and scroll through social media until the faces blurred into static. That's how the nights usually went. Until Julia came. I met her at a regional marketing conference in Boston. She was in her early 30s too, confident without being loud, beautiful in that composed way that comes from knowing every angle of your face. She wore a navy blazer and red lipstick that didn't smudge even after coffee. I remember thinking she looked like someone who belonged everywhere. We ended up sitting next to each other during a breakout session on brand authenticity. She leaned toward me, halfway through the speaker's presentation, and whispered, "You'd think the irony of a man in a $2,000 suit talking about authenticity would be obvious." I laughed. The real kind. The kind that sneaks out before you can stop it. She smiled, pleased, and said, "I'm Julia." That's how it started. Not fireworks, just the spark of recognition. We ate lunch together, talked about everything except work, travel, bad dates, music that made us feel nostalgic for things we never lived through. When she told me she lived in Montpelier but came to Burlington often for client meetings, I felt a twinge of disappointment that she wasn't local, followed immediately by relief. Distance meant safety. By the end of the day, she had my number. By the end of the week, we were texting every night. Her messages were witty, measured, thoughtful. She remembered small details, the name of my cat, the mug I used every morning, the kind of tea I liked. She made me feel seen in a way I hadn't in years, so when she suggested dinner the next weekend, I said yes. We met at a wine bar downtown, candlelight, live jazz, rain tapping softly against the windows. She looked perfect, but it wasn't her looks that disarmed me. It was her attention. The way she tilted her head when I spoke, like she was memorizing the rhythm of my voice. By the time dessert came, the wine had loosened the last of my restraint. I broke my rule. "You should come up for a nightcap," I said, trying to sound casual. She smiled. "I was hoping you'd ask." The apartment felt warmer than usual when we walked in, like it had been waiting for company. I put on a record, Coltrane, low and steady, and poured us each another glass of wine. She wandered the living room, trailing her fingers along the bookshelf, the photo frames, the back of the couch. "You live alone?" she asked. "Yeah, just me and the cat." "Must get lonely." I shrugged. "Sometimes." "You're brave, though," she said, turning toward me. "Letting someone in?" I laughed nervously. "You make it sound dangerous." She smiled, but there was something off about it. A flicker of amusement too sharp to be kind. For a while, everything was fine. We sat close, knees almost touching. She told me about a trip to Italy, about the sea, about how she'd once almost drowned as a kid and still dreamt about the feeling of sinking. Her voice was hypnotic. Then her phone buzzed. She froze. The screen lit up with an unknown number. She stared at it too long, the way you do when you're deciding between fight and flight. "You okay?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. Then she smiled again, but it was all teeth now. "Yeah, just spam. Happens a lot." Something in her tone made me uneasy. She put the phone face down on the table. Her hand trembled slightly as she reached for her glass. "So?" she said, voice lower now. "Tell me about your last relationship." I hesitated. "Why?" She leaned closer. "I like to know what I'm walking into." I smiled, uneasy. "It ended badly. That's all." "Did you hurt him?" The question caught me off guard. "What?" "No, he..." She laughed suddenly, interrupting. "I'm kidding. Relax." But her eyes didn't laugh with her. Something cracked inside me. The same old warning bell I used to ignore. I stood up to pour more wine, trying to shake it off. "Do you want another glass?" Behind me, the room went quiet. Then I heard the faint vibration of her phone again. When I turned, she was staring at me, wide-eyed, jaw tight. "You think you can read me, don't you?" she said. My stomach dropped. "Julia, what are you talking about?" Her voice hardened. "You've been judging me all night, like you're waiting for me to mess up." "That's not—" The sound of glass shattering cut me off. The wine bottle exploded against the table, spilling red like blood across the white cloth. For a heartbeat, she just stood there, breathing hard, holding the broken neck of the bottle in her hand. The candlelight caught the glass in a jagged halo. Then she moved. Everything slowed, the way fear distorts time. I remember the scrape of her shoes against the tile, the smell of wine and smoke from the candle she'd knocked over. I raised my hands instinctively. "Julia, stop, please." "You lied," she hissed. "You're just like the rest. You think you're safe because you smile." She lunged. The glass grazed my palm, hot, sharp pain blooming. I shoved her back with all the strength I had. She stumbled, hit the table, sending another glass crashing. "Get out!" I screamed. She laughed when a sound that didn't belong to her voice. I bolted, ran for the hallway. My cat darted under the couch. I grabbed the doorknob, yanked it open, and sprinted into the corridor barefoot, blood slicking my hand. The hall lights flickered, that awful fluorescent buzz that makes everything look wrong. I pounded on my neighbor's door. "Help! Please!" Footsteps behind me. Light, deliberate. I turned. She stood in my doorway, framed by the light from inside my apartment, smiling again. But her smile was wrong now. Too wide, too calm. "Don't run from me, Shelley. You invited me." The neighbor's door swung open. Mr. Larson, retired, half asleep, holding a baseball bat. He took one look at me, shaking, bleeding, and one at her, and froze. By the time he stepped into the hall, she was gone. The police arrived 20 minutes later. My apartment was a mess of shattered glass and spilled wine. No sign of Julia. They took my statement, asked for her full name, where we met, where she worked. "Julia Caney," I said. "Marketing consultant. We met at the Harrison Co-work conference. They ran it through their system. Nothing. No Julia Kane in Vermont. No record of her at the conference. No employee by that name anywhere in Harrison Co.'s history. You sure that's her real name?" One officer asked gently. I wanted to say yes, but my voice broke. After they left, I sat in the dark with my cat on my lap, bleeding into a towel. Every sound made me flinch. The hum of the fridge, the creak of the pipes. When I finally dared to look at the broken glass on the table, I saw something wedged between the shards, a business card. Julia Kane Strategic Consultant phone number scribbled beneath. I called it. The line rang once, then cut to static, and under the static a faint sound, a soft laughter. Days turned into weeks. I replaced the glass table with wood, bought new locks, new curtains, even new mugs. I told myself I was safe again. Then the emails started. No sender, no subject line. Just one sentence in each. "You look scared." I liked that. "You shouldn't have pushed me. You'll invite me in again." The police traced nothing. They said it could be a spoofed account. "Probably someone messing with you," the detective said. But it wasn't just anyone. It was her. I know it was her. Every night I dream of her face, and not the smile, but the eyes. How calm they were, even when she attacked me. Like she'd done it before, like she'd do it again. I started seeing her in crowds. A flash of red lipstick in a cafe window. A reflection behind me in a store mirror. Once at the grocery store, I saw her directly, or someone who looked like her. She stood at the end of the aisle, smiling softly, hands folded behind her back. When I blinked, she was gone. That night my phone buzzed. A new message: wine, jazz, candles. Let's finish what we started. I moved the next day. It's been 6 months. I don't date anymore. I don't bring anyone home. My therapist says I need to reclaim my space, but I can't. Because sometimes I wake in the middle of the night and swear I hear the faint clink of glass. That delicate, unmistakable sound of a bottle tipping. Last week I got a letter with no return address. Inside was a photo of my apartment, taken from the sidewalk. Lights on, curtains half drawn, me visible in the window, on the back in red ink. "You shouldn't drink alone." The police came again. Same result. No leads, no prints, no trace. Now I live with all the lights on. My cat sleeps by the door. ears twitching at every noise. I haven't played Coltrane since that night, but sometimes when the wind rattles the windows, I hear faint music anyway. And sometimes, though I tell myself it's impossible, I hear it again. The soft scrape of a chair across the tile, the quiet pop of a wine cork. I tell myself it's memory, the mind replaying trauma. But last night, I found a lipstick print on one of my new glasses, deep red, perfectly shaped, and underneath it, a single word scrawled in my handwriting, though I never wrote it. Cheers. Now, every time my phone rings, I freeze before answering. Because charm, I've learned, is just another kind of weapon. And sometimes the monster doesn't break in. Sometimes you invite her inside. Some breakups end quietly. Others feel like waiting for a storm to find your address. I'm Shawnee Blair, 26, a social worker in Savannah, Georgia, and for the last month, I'd been trying to keep my best friend Giselle alive in all the ways you can before something happens. Her ex-boyfriend, Connor Reese, didn't understand the word end. He treated it like a challenge, a wound he could reopen until she bled her way back to him. The first signs were small: missed calls at 2 a.m., half apologies in voicemail form, and the same silver Honda parked across from her apartment for hours. Its headlights off but engine faintly humming. Giselle told herself it was coincidence. I told her it wasn't. I'd seen too much in my job, patterns of obsession that start with "I miss you" and end with an obituary. Every night, I stayed over, claiming it was for the company. But it was for the locks, for the shadows that stretched too long under her window. "He'll get over it," she kept saying. "He just can't yet." But obsession isn't about time. It's about control. That Saturday, the air felt wrong from the moment I woke up. Heavy, charged. The kind of humidity that holds onto thunder like a secret. Giselle wanted to go out anyway, to feel normal again. I said yes, though normal had become a foreign country. We sat at a corner table in a cafe near Forsyth Park, sunlight filtering through rain-streaked glass. The espresso machine hissed softly, the low murmur of conversation blending into the jazz playlist overhead. For a while, it almost felt safe. She laughed. God, I'd missed that sound. Her smile was tentative but real, her curls framing her face in the soft light. "I think I might finally be okay," she said, stirring sugar into her coffee. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe the universe wouldn't take that from her. Then my phone vibrated. A text. "Unknown number. You shouldn't have brought her out today." My stomach turned. I showed it to her, but she tried to laugh it off. "It's probably spam, Shawnee. You always think the world's out to get us." Maybe. But then she froze, eyes fixed on something behind me. "Shawnee," she whispered. I turned. Across the street, half hidden by parked cars, stood Connor. He looked thinner. His face pale, eyes bloodshot, stubble crawling up his jaw like rot. He was holding something in his hand. A brown bottle. The other hand clutched a lighter. "Oh God," Giselle whispered. "No, no, no, no." I stood so fast my chair toppled backward. The cafe went silent except for the faint hum of the air conditioner and the uneven rhythm of traffic outside. Connor's gaze locked onto Giselle's. Even across the street I could see the tremor in his jaw, the gleam of wet streaks under his eyes. He shouted her name, once, twice, then louder. "Giselle, talk to me. Just talk to me." People on the sidewalk slowed. Someone pulled out a phone. A few others moved away. Giselle's lips parted, no sound coming out. She just shook her head. Connor stepped off the curb. The smell reached us first. Thick, chemical, unmistakable. Gasoline. He poured it over himself in jerky, desperate motions, his voice cracking between sobs and laughter. "You said I was crazy. You said I needed help." He grinned, teeth flashing. "You'll see what love costs, baby." Someone screamed, "Call 911." I grabbed Giselle's arm and pulled her toward the back exit, but her body locked up. "Shawnee, he's gonna do it, or don't look at him, move," I hissed. He flicked the lighter once, twice, the metallic snap echoing through the street like gunfire. Each click was a threat suspended in time. My heartbeat filled the silence between them. Then, a spark, a flicker of orange. But it died. A useless cough of flame swallowed by damp wind. He screamed in frustration, slamming the lighter against his palm. The gasoline gleamed across his shirt like an oily reflection of his rage. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Blue and red strobes cut through the haze as squad cars turned the corner. Connor dropped to his knees, sobbing now, the lighter still twitching in his hand. Officers shouted commands, their voices sharp and rehearsed. "Drop it, put it down." He didn't. He just stared at Giselle, eyes glassy and unblinking. "You were supposed to love me forever," he whispered. Then they rushed him. The lighter fell, clattering against wet pavement. It didn't ignite. The world tilted after that. The police taped off the scene, pushing back the crowd. Reporters showed up within minutes, cameras reflecting the blue lights like fireflies. Giselle sat on the curb, shaking so violently her coffee cup rattled in her hand. I wrapped my arm around her shoulders, but I couldn't stop my own trembling. An officer took our statements. I remember his voice, patient and flat, like someone trying not to show exhaustion. "You two did the right thing calling it in. We've had prior reports about him, haven't we?" "She filed one," I said. "But they said there wasn't enough to press charges." He nodded slowly, writing it down. "There usually isn't." When they led Connor away, handcuffed and soaked, he looked smaller, deflated. But when he passed us, his lips moved. No sound. Just a whisper I could read clearly. "Soon." That night the rain came. Heavy, relentless. We stayed at my place, curtains drawn, the news replaying clips of the domestic disturbance like it was a movie trailer. Every time his name appeared on the screen, Giselle flinched. At some point she asked, "Do you think he would have done it if the lighter worked?" I didn't answer, because I knew he would have. By 3 a.m., she was asleep on the couch, her face buried in my blanket, the thunder outside muffling her quiet, exhausted sobs. I sat by the window watching the reflection of lightning in the wet street, feeling the ghost of gasoline still clinging to my skin. I thought it was over. It wasn't. A week later, Giselle texted me a photo. No message, it was her front door. A small paper heart taped to it. In red marker, the words, "I still love you." The police checked the cameras. Grainy footage showed a man in a hoodie walking up at 2:14 a.m., sticking it there and walking away. They couldn't confirm it was Connor. He'd been released on bail pending psychiatric evaluation. Giselle stopped answering calls after that. Said she needed space. 2 nights later, I drove by her apartment anyway. Her car was gone. The windows dark, but there was another car, silver Honda, engine running, Connor's car. I called the police again. They came, found nothing, said he must have left. The next morning, she texted me from a new number. "I'm staying with my aunt for a while. Don't worry, but the punctuation felt wrong, too formal." I called her old number, straight to voicemail. Days passed, weeks. I told myself she was safe, that she needed distance, that maybe she was rebuilding somewhere else, but part of me knew. The silence felt too deliberate, and every night, I still heard that lighter, metal snapping open, flame catching, dying. Then 2 months later, my phone buzzed again, a video message. No sender ID, I pressed play, grainy footage, a woman's apartment. Dim lighting. The camera panned slowly across a coffee table, then a couch, then stopped. A small paper heart taped to a door, the same. Handwriting. Same words. And in the background, barely visible through the window's reflection, Connor's silhouette, holding a lighter. The flame flicked once, twice. Then the video cut to black. I showed it to the police. They said the timestamp was old, corrupted. Couldn't verify where it came from, but I know what I saw. Now, even months later, I can't pass a gas station without feeling sick. I can't hear a lighter without freezing, every nerve bracing for the sound that comes after. The whoosh, the scream, the silence. Giselle's number never reappeared. Her aunt said she hadn't heard from her. Sometimes I dream of that day in the cafe, the rain-streaked windows, the spark that almost caught. And I wonder if maybe this is what he wanted all along. Not to burn her, but to leave us living in the smoke. Because obsession doesn't die when the fire goes out, it lingers. It waits. And somewhere, I swear, I still smell gasoline. I thought I'd won something that night. A silly dating game on TV, a harmless bit of fun in Los Angeles, 1978. The lights were so bright they erased the edges of things, faces, shadows, even fear. I remember the host's grin, the audience's laughter, and the way the applause hit like a wave when they said my name. I smiled because everyone else was smiling. That's what you do when the camera's on you. You perform. When they introduced Bachelor number 3, the crowd's reaction was louder than usual. He stepped out from behind the partition, tall, dark hair, perfectly feathered, that kind of symmetrical face television loves. Rodney Alcala. The name slid through my ears like something meant to be remembered. He had one of those smiles that made you want to trust him. Warm, rehearsed, designed to draw you in. "You're glowing," he said, when we shook hands after the taping. The kind of line that should have sounded cheap but didn't because his voice was low, patient, intimate, like he was telling me a secret meant only for me. The producer said we'd won an all-expenses-paid dinner, just the two of us, to be filmed for a follow-up segment. I thought that meant safety, a controlled environment, cameras, people. But it wasn't scheduled yet, and when he asked for my number in the parking lot, I gave it to him. That's what I remember most, the way I didn't even hesitate. The days after, he called every night. His voice through the receiver was soft and melodic, each word dipped in honey.
He asked about my job, my childhood, the books I liked.
He said he was a photographer, that he saw light differently. I thought it was poetic. Looking back, it was probably literal. When he asked if I wanted to meet him before the official dinner, just to talk without the cameras, he said, I agreed. We met near Griffith Park, the sun sinking low, painting the air with that gold haze Los Angeles does so well. He carried a camera bag slung over his shoulder, said it helped him feel grounded. We walked the trail until the sounds of the city faded, replaced by the hush of wind through dry grass. I noticed how quiet he was between questions. Not awkward quiet, but intent, like he was studying me, cataloging details. When I laughed at one of his jokes, his expression didn't change. Just the eyes. They flicked up sharply, and for a moment I felt like prey. "You're even more beautiful when you forget to pose," he said. I smiled, pretending it was flattering, but something about his phrasing snagged in my mind, the forget to pose part. Like I was just another subject for his lens. He took my picture by a tree, said he wanted to capture the natural you. The shutter snapped once, twice. I tried to hide my unease behind a practiced smile. The air smelled like eucalyptus and film chemicals, sharp and chemical sweet, the kind of scent that sticks to memory. As dusk deepened, I suggested we head back. He nodded but didn't move right away. His hand brushed my hair. "Don't leave yet. You haven't let me see you properly." His tone was different now, the softness thinning, a tremor of something colder beneath. When I finally insisted we go, he laughed, too loud, too long, echoing through the trees like something detached from humor. "You think you're smarter than me, don't you?" he said suddenly, the words sharp and almost childlike in their bitterness. The switch was so abrupt it didn't feel real. I started walking faster, saying something about an early morning, but I could hear him behind me, his footsteps syncing with mine. Then closer, I glanced back. He was smiling again, the warmth gone from it. We reached a deserted locker room by the pool area, the concrete slick with condensation, the light buzzing overhead. When I turned to say goodbye, he was already too close. His hand came up fast, not to touch, but to block. He moved to the door and leaned against it, casual, as though this was part of the date. "You shouldn't waste people's time." His voice had flattened, eyes unreadable. "You led me on. You know that?" "I think I should go," I said, trying to keep my tone level. He tilted his head. "Go where?" "We're just getting started." I took a step back. My heel slipped slightly on the damp tile. His smile widened. That's when I noticed his fingers twitching near the camera strap, like it wasn't a strap at all, like it could be something else if he wanted it to be. The hum of the overhead light filled the silence between us. Then he laughed again, that strange hollow sound that didn't match any emotion I knew. "You're scared," he said softly, almost with wonder. "Good. Fear looks real on you." "I didn't think. I just moved." I pushed past him, felt his hand graze my arm. Cold, firm, deliberate. He didn't grab me, but he didn't need to. The touch was enough to stay burned in my skin. The locker room window was open, small, the kind meant for ventilation, not escape. But adrenaline makes impossible things possible. The glass tore into my arm as I crawled through. The world outside was all gravel, rain, and pain. When I looked back, he was watching me from the window, expressionless, almost curious, like he was studying a specimen. I ran until my lungs felt like knives. When I reached the main road, a car pulled over. A couple on their way home, faces blanched when they saw me, bloodied, shaking, wild-eyed. They took me to the hospital. I told the police everything, the game show, the park, the locker room, his name. They took notes, nodded, said they'd look into it, then nothing. No follow-up call. No arrest, just silence. I tried to go back to normal life. Pretended it was just a bad date that got out of hand, nothing more. But normal doesn't exist after you've looked into someone's eyes and seen the absence of a soul. Days passed, then weeks. I still flinched at camera shutters, at men who smiled too long. My arm healed, but the scar itched whenever I thought about him. Then one evening, I was making dinner, radio humming softly, the smell of garlic and rain in the air, when the newscaster's voice cracked through the static. Rodney Alcala, suspected serial murderer, was arrested today. The world stopped. I dropped the knife. My hands shook. The announcer went on. Photographs found in his possession, young women missing, bodies near the park. My knees gave out before the details even sank in. He'd killed before. He'd killed after. I didn't breathe again until the segment ended. I sat on the kitchen floor for a long time, the cold tile grounding me. It wasn't relief I felt. It was shame, because part of me had still been wondering if I'd overreacted that night, if I'd been dramatic. Now I knew I'd nearly died. For weeks, the news showed his face everywhere. That same smile broadcast across televisions and newspapers, hauntingly unchanged. People called him the dating game killer. Reporters repeated his name like a brand. And with each photo, each new detail, I saw more of the man I'd walked beside in the dark. He'd used his camera to hunt. Each photograph a tether, a claim. I started dreaming of that sound, the sharp mechanical click, echoing through my sleep. Sometimes I'd wake certain that I'd heard it for real, that someone had taken my picture as I slept. It didn't help that my mailbox began filling with unmarked envelopes. Most were empty, but one contained a single Polaroid, a tree at dusk. Blurry, unfocused, but familiar. The same trail where we'd met. No note, no signature. The police said it was likely a prank, that people get weird ideas when a case like this hits the press. I nodded, but inside a part of me knew better. I moved apartments, changed jobs, cut my hair short, dyed it dark. Still, I felt watched. My reflection in shop windows seemed to hesitate a half-second behind me. I'd catch flashes of a camera lens in crowds, small glints that vanished when I turned. Once, walking past a photo booth at a mall, the machine whirred to life unprompted. The curtain shifted. I ran before the first flash. I tried therapy, meditation, distraction. But trauma doesn't dissipate, it burrows. Years passed. The world moved on. He was tried, convicted, given the death sentence. I told myself that meant closure, that the nightmare was over. But then a documentary aired. They replayed footage from the dating show. My face, young and laughing, sitting just a few feet from the monster. The host's voice was chipper. The audience clapped. The producers asked if I wanted to give an interview. To share your experience, they said. I declined. Some stories aren't meant for retelling. They're meant for survival. Still, that night I watched the clip alone in the dark. It was surreal, seeing my old self on the screen, oblivious, smiling as he flirted from across the stage. And when the camera panned to him, I swear that he wasn't looking at me. He was looking at the lens, at whoever was behind it. Like he knew we'd all be watching someday. The next morning, I found a single Polaroid slipped under my door. It showed the television paused on my face. Beneath it, in shaky handwriting, "Beautiful even when you forget to pose." My body went cold. I moved again after that. Farther this time. Different city, new name. I keep the curtains closed. I don't own a camera. I don't even let mirrors linger where they can catch me off guard. Still, sometimes when night falls and the house grows quiet, I hear it, the click, soft, mechanical, unmistakable. It comes from the dark corner near the window, just once, never twice. A warning, a memory, or maybe something else. I tell myself it's in my head, that it can't be him. But the sound always comes when I forget to look afraid, and when I finally turn, heart hammering, mouth dry. There's nothing there. Just the faint smell of film and the echo of my own breathing. They say he's dead now, executed. But some nights, I think about what he told me the first time we met. I believe in capturing what lives beyond death. I used to think it was metaphor. Now I'm not so sure, because every time I close my eyes, I see the flash, bright, searing, eternal, and the shutter falls again. Somewhere, somehow the picture develops and I'm still in it. I thought loneliness was my worst flaw. Turns out it was my invitation. There's something about empty apartments that amplifies everything. The hum of the fridge becomes a voice. The wind against the windows sounds like breathing. I used to think I liked living alone. That solitude made me strong, but lately the silence felt less like peace and more like being buried alive and quiet. I'm Natalie Vance, 29, freelance graphic designer from Eugene, Oregon. I work from home, surrounded by plants I talk to more often than people. They don't answer back, but at least they don't leave. When I met Eric, it was late. One of those restless nights when my brain wouldn't stop replaying old relationships like a scratched record. I downloaded the app again, swore it was just to browse. Then his profile appeared. Simple, kind eyes. Guitar in hand. A dog named Lucy leaning against his knee. His bio said, "I believe in second chances." Something about that line got me. We started messaging that night. He was funny in a quiet way, the kind of man who asked questions instead of talking about himself. He told me he was between projects doing contract work for a landscaping company near the edge of town. I told him about my clients, my deadlines, the ache behind my eyes from too much blue light. He listened, or at least he seemed to. We talked for hours. The next night too. And the one after that, I'd wake to a "Good morning, Natalie" message that felt warmer than the sun through my blinds. I'd fall asleep to sweet dreams, and my phone screen glowed like a nightlight. It was pathetic, maybe, but after a year of emptiness, it felt good to be wanted again. After 3 weeks, he asked if I wanted to meet in person. I almost said no, but he suggested Hollow Bean Cafe, a public place, early evening, safe, normal. I told myself it would be fine. It wasn't fine. The cafe was half empty that day, the smell of espresso clinging to everything. He looked exactly like his pictures, a little tired around the eyes, maybe, but real, tangible. "You must be Natalie," he said, standing awkwardly, smiling too wide. "And you must be Eric," I answered, trying to sound confident. His handshake was warm, slightly damp, nervous. I liked that, and it made him human. We talked about music, pets, bad dates. His voice had that steady, low tone that could lull you into trust. He kept touching his ring finger, rubbing the skin where a tan line cut across. "Divorced?" I asked lightly. He hesitated. "Almost." Then he smiled, the tension gone as quickly as it came. "It's complicated, but it's over." I should have paid more attention to that pause. When the cafe closed, he walked me to my car. The sky was bruised purple, streetlights flickering on one by one. I was about to say goodbye when he leaned closer. "Do you mind giving me a quick ride? Just up the road, police station's on your way. Need to drop something off." It was strange, but his tone was casual and the station was less than a mile away. I unlocked the door. He slid in, exhaled deeply. "You make me feel calm, you know that?" I smiled, uneasy but flattered. The car filled with quiet except for the rhythmic squeak of windshield wipers and the faint scent of wet earth from his coat. When we turned onto the main road, flashing blue lights cut through the dark ahead. 2 police cruisers parked outside the station. Eric tensed, his hand twitching against his knee. The moment we pulled up, everything happened at once. The doors flew open and officers rushed forward, guns drawn. "Eric Jameson."
"Out of the vehicle!"
"Hands where we can see them." My body froze. He didn't move, just turned to me, calm, almost amused. "You make me feel seen, Natalie," he whispered as the officers wrenched him from the seat. The door slammed. A voice shouted rights I couldn't process. His reflection flickered in the rearview mirror. Blood spattered on his sleeve, eyes locked on mine. They said he'd killed his wife that morning. Marianne Jameson, 31, found in her home outside the city, bludgeoned, multiple wounds. The dog, Lucy, still tied in the backyard. I stared at the headline for hours, reading and rereading the words until they lost meaning. Neighbors described him as quiet, kind, kept to himself. He'd been separated for 6 months. The photo showed him exactly as I remembered. Gentle eyes, hesitant smile. The kind of man you could mistake for safe. For weeks after, I couldn't stop thinking about the car ride. The way he'd looked at me. The way his hand had brushed the glove compartment. I kept wondering if there was something he'd meant to do before the police showed up. Something I'd interrupted without realizing. At night, I replayed his last words. "You make me feel seen." Seen by who? The cops asked questions, of course. How we met, what he'd said, if I'd noticed signs. I told them everything. They nodded, took notes, told me to reach out if I remembered anything else. Then they left, leaving the apartment even quieter than before. Silence stopped feeling neutral after that. It was suffocating. Every small sound, dripping faucet, creak of floorboards, hum of my phone made me jump. I deleted the app, but the messages stayed burned into my mind. "Good morning, Natalie. Sweet dreams, Natalie." A month passed, then 2. I told myself I was healing. That trauma has a half-life that I'd forget eventually. But every time I walked past Hollow Bean Cafe, my stomach twisted. That's when the emails began. The first one came from an address I didn't recognize, from the woods 728protonmail.com. No subject line. No message. Just an attachment and a photo. It was me, sitting in my car. Taken from somewhere outside through the rain-smeared glass. I called the police. They said it was probably spam, maybe someone pulling a sick prank. "Don't open strange attachments, ma'am." But the next one wasn't a photo, it was a recording, static at first. Then a voice, low and distant. "You shouldn't have deleted me." I dropped the phone. It clattered against the counter. When I finally pressed play again, the message repeated. The same voice. Eric's voice. I changed my number. Bought new locks. Stopped sleeping. Every night I'd check the windows, the door, the closet. Everything stayed normal, and that was somehow worse, because it made me wonder if I was imagining it all. Then, on a gray morning in June, I saw him, or thought I did. Across the street from my apartment stood a man in a navy hoodie, head down, hands in pockets. He wasn't moving, just staring toward my window. I froze, heart slamming against my ribs. When I blinked, he was gone. I told myself it couldn't be him. He was in custody, convicted. I'd watched the trial coverage online, seen his mugshot, his empty stare. But then why did the man's stance look so familiar? That night I dreamed I was back in the car. The windshield wipers moved without sound, and Eric was in the passenger seat, smiling. "We're almost there, Natalie," he said. When I looked down, there was blood on the steering wheel. I woke up screaming. The next morning, I found something tucked under my door. A folded note, typed, not handwritten. It's hard to feel seen when you keep hiding. The police took it, said they'd investigate. No prints, no leads. I started staying with my friend Lydia across town. She didn't ask many questions, just made tea and kept the guest room ready. For the first few nights, I slept. Really slept. Then one morning she came into the kitchen, pale as chalk. "Nate, did you go outside last night?" "No, why?" She slid her phone across the table. A motion alert from her doorbell camera. A man standing on the porch at 3:12 a.m. Not moving, not knocking, just standing there. His face was hidden by the hood, but the posture was unmistakable. I left that day. Moved back into my apartment despite the fear. Because at least there I knew every sound, every shadow. Now it's been 3 months. The calls have stopped. The emails too. But sometimes when I glance at my reflection in the darkened window, I catch movement just behind me. A suggestion of someone standing there. I tell myself it's nothing. The mind plays tricks. Trauma distorts time and space. Still, I can't shake the feeling that somewhere another woman is opening her phone. Seeing the same profile. The same dog. The same line. I believe in second chances. And maybe this time he's learned not to get caught so soon. Sometimes I wake to my phone buzzing on the nightstand. No message, no missed call. Just a phantom vibration. The body remembering what the mind tries to forget. You make me feel seen, Natalie. The words echo in the quiet like a heartbeat. And every time I hear them, I reach for my phone. Because maybe it's not just memory. Maybe it's a notification, a new message, a new name, the same smile. Business trips are lonelier than people admit. The silence of hotel rooms hums like a warning you learn to ignore. Air conditioning that never shuts off. The low electric buzz of nothing happening. You start to hear your own heartbeat in it. You start to think that maybe the stillness is looking back. I'm Ryan Pierce, 34, business consultant out of Austin, Texas. I travel enough that every city feels like a rental life. You show up, you pretend you belong, and you leave before the walls start whispering your name. That week it was Seattle, the Caldwell Regency Hotel, room 1114. Beige curtains, one king bed, carpet that smelled faintly like cigarettes and lemon disinfectant. I'd sworn off dating apps months before. They felt like slot machines for loneliness. Swipe, hope, lose, repeat. But that night I couldn't sleep. The rain against the window sounded like static. I opened Tinder. Just to scroll, I told myself. Just to see what kind of ghost haunted this city. Then there she was, Lena. Her photos were simple. Coffee cup in hand, hair tucked behind one ear. A stray lock falling into her eyes. No filters, no poses. Her bio, new in town. Love dogs, hate small talk. It was enough to make her seem real. When she messaged first, still awake? It felt like fate disguised as coincidence. I told myself it wasn't unusual. That people met like this all the time. She said she lived nearby, that she didn't sleep much either. When I told her I was at the Caldwell, she joked, "Fancy. Guess I'll have to behave." I typed back, "Or don't." She sent a winking emoji. Then, "Give me 15 minutes, that was how easy it was." How simple it felt. I spent those 15 minutes pacing, straightening the sheets, half regretting, half thrilled. I remember glancing at my reflection in the dark window, the faint double of myself against the city's blue glow. I looked tired, older than I wanted to admit. When the knock came, soft, deliberate, it startled me. I opened the door to find her, rain on her coat, cheeks flushed, perfume sharp enough to taste. She smiled, small and careful. "You're taller than I expected." "You're wetter," I said, motioning to her soaked hair. It made her laugh. The kind of laugh that sounds rehearsed but practiced for survival. Not charm. Inside, she stood near the dresser, eyes scanning the room like a guest afraid of overstaying. "You sure this is okay?" she asked. Of course, she nodded, set her purse on the table. Her hands trembled just slightly, enough for me to notice. She tried to hide it by tucking her hair again. We talked about nothing at first. Work, weather, travel. She said she'd just moved from Spokane, that she missed her old dog, that her apartment didn't feel safe at night. When I asked why, she said, "Sometimes it's not about the place. It's about who knows where it is." I thought she meant an ex. I didn't push. After half an hour, she relaxed, or pretended to. Her laugh got looser, her eyes a little brighter. But every few minutes, she'd glance at the door quick, like she was checking for someone. I poured her a drink. When she reached into her purse for her phone, something inside caught the light. Metal, not gold or silver, but dull, gray, purposeful. "What's that?" I asked before I could stop myself. She froze. "What's what?" "That in your bag." "Oh, just keys," but she zipped the purse shut before I could see again. We both smiled, pretending nothing was off. Then her phone buzzed. She lifted it slightly, and for an instant I saw the wallpaper. A man's face, close up, smirking. "Boyfriend?" I joked. She didn't answer. The air thickened, and then 2 short knocks at the door. Not loud, not frantic, just patient. Her head snapped toward the sound, eyes wide. "Don't answer it," she whispered. "Who is it?" She didn't move. The color drained from her face, and her voice turned brittle. "Please, Ryan, don't." But something primal took over, that human instinct to act instead of think. I stepped toward the door. The peephole showed nothing but the faint outline of a shoulder, blurred in the hallway light. "Room service," a voice said. "Mail. Calm. Wrong." I didn't order anything. No answer. I looked at Lena. She was trembling now, hands pressed to her mouth. That's when I saw her phone light up again, the same man's face flashing. A text notification glowing on the screen. "Do it." Something in me clicked. I picked up my phone, hit 911 and set it on speaker. The robotic calm of the operator filled the room. "Emergency services." "What's your location?" Outside silence, then hurried footsteps. Fading. Lena exhaled a sound like a sob. When I looked back, the door was shut, and she was gone, just gone. Her purse still sat on the table unzipped. Inside, lipstick, a crumpled napkin, and an empty phone case. The police came, took statements, checked the cameras. They said no one matching her description was caught on footage. No one had knocked. Maybe she used the fire exit, one officer said. Happens all the time. Escorts bail when clients get spooked. But she wasn't an escort. I knew that, though I couldn't explain how. There'd been fear in her eyes. Not the kind born from getting caught, but from being hunted. For the next 2 days, I barely slept. Every sound in the hallways, every cart, every whisper jolted me upright. When I checked out, the clerk handed me a note. "Someone left this for you," she said. It was hotel stationery, folded twice. No signature, just a line in blue ink. "They watch you now, too." I flew home, convinced I could leave it behind. But the paranoia didn't stay in Seattle. It came back with me. A week later, I started seeing the same kind of car everywhere. Black, tinted windows, idling too long near my apartment. Once outside my gym, once at the grocery store. Always leaving before I could get close enough to see the plates. I told myself I was imagining it. That I'd watched too much news. Then one night I stopped at a 24-hour convenience store near home. The parking lot was half empty, rain pooling in the cracks. That's when I saw her. Lena. She was leaning against the wall near the payphone, hair matted, a bruise blooming under her eye. Her coat was the same one she'd worn that night, soaked, torn at the sleeve. "Lena?" She flinched. Our eyes met. For a moment I thought she'd come toward me, but she didn't. "Don't," she mouthed, shaking her head. Her lips formed the word again. "Don't." Then she slipped behind the building and vanished into the alley. I ran after her, but the alley was empty. Only a discarded purse lay against the dumpster. Hers, I thought, until I saw the initials burned into the leather. M.H. Not Lena. Someone else. That was when I realized it. Maybe she wasn't the only one. Maybe this was bigger than her, bigger than me. For weeks, I couldn't focus. My job suffered. My friends noticed. I started locking my phone in a drawer at night, convinced that was how they'd find me again, but the calls still came. Unknown numbers, silence on the other end, then a new voice. Male, measured, almost kind. "You shouldn't have interfered." Click. The next night, another. "She was never yours to save." Click. Each call left me hollow, like a sound had been removed from the world. I went to the police again. They said without a traceable number there was nothing they could do. So I traced it myself. IT training has its perks. The IP led back to Seattle, a co-working space downtown registered under a shell company. The Halo Group LLC. The name meant nothing until I searched it online. Buried in local forums were rumors. People meeting clients from dating apps. Getting lured to fake apartments, fake bars, fake safe houses. Most didn't report it. Those who did said the same thing, that the people who lured them looked terrified too, like they were doing it to survive something worse. Last week, I got another message on a new number. No words this time. Just a photo, me in my driveway. I didn't call the police. I just locked every door, sat in the dark, and waited. At 3:17 a.m., a knock came. 2 short reps. I froze. Phone in hand. A woman's voice, soft, trembling. "Ryan, it's me, please, I didn't have a choice." I approached slowly, peering through the peephole. It was her, Lena, paler now, eyes hollow. She whispered something, but the glass distorted it. I opened the door just enough for her to step inside. Her hands were shaking. "You shouldn't have called the cops. They don't stop. They never stop. Who are they? The ones behind the door that night?" She looked around, panicked, like even walls could listen. "They make us do it. They use our families." "I tried to warn you." A sound interrupted her on from outside. Tires on wet pavement, she froze. "They found me. We can go to the police." "No police. They'll just disappear us." Before I could react, she grabbed my phone, smashed it against the floor. "They can track calls," she whispered. The headlights outside cut through the blinds, sweeping arcs of white light crawling across the ceiling. She turned to me, eyes wet, pleading. "If they take me, they'll come for you next." Then the window shattered. I ducked. She screamed. The car outside peeled away, tires screeching. When I looked up again, she was gone. No blood this time. No sign of forced entry. Just a single object on the floor and a phone, hers. Its screen cracked but still glowing. A message thread. The most recent one, sent just minutes before she arrived. Unknown. Bring him tonight. It's been 3 months since that night. I moved again. Changed numbers, cities, even names on paper. But sometimes I still hear the knock. 2 short raps, always patient. Always deliberate. I tell myself it's nothing. Plumbing. Wind. Coincidence. But some nights I dream of her face. That final look. Regret mixed with warning. And I wake to my phone glowing softly in the dark. A message waiting. No name, just 3 words. Still awake, Ryan? The cursor blinks. Waiting. And in the background, faintly, I swear I hear it again. The rain against glass. The hum of a hotel air conditioner, and somewhere in that silence, a second knock, closer this time, always closer. The internet used to feel like a secret place. A world made of words, not faces. Back then in 2002, the glow of a monitor was enough to make me feel less alone. I was Adam Lorne, 32, IT technician from Cleveland, Ohio, spending long nights in my 1-bedroom apartment surrounded by the hum of machines and the faint buzz of fluorescent light. The walls were off-white. The air smelled faintly of solder and burnt coffee, and the only voices I ever heard came through my headset. I wasn't unhappy exactly, just unstuck. My social life existed in blinking cursors and usernames, in the digital warmth of strangers who vanished when the server went down. My handle was North Sky, a name I picked because I liked the idea of endless space, something open and quiet. That's where I met Katie. It started in a film chat room, one of those late-night IRC channels where nobody used real names. She messaged me about an old movie I'd mentioned, and we started talking about everything else. Music, bad dates, the stupid ache of being alive and unseen. She was quick with jokes, sharp without being cruel. She had this way of writing that felt like she was speaking directly into my head. Her profile picture was small, grainy, almost abstract, half her face in shadow, a crooked smile. I convinced myself it was the lighting, not intentional. She said she lived in Cincinnati but moved around a lot. At first it was easy. We logged on at the same time every night, talked until the sun came up. I started recognizing her typing rhythm, the pauses, the way she used ellipses like sighs. I knew when she was drinking wine because her typos doubled. Then she gave me her number. Our first call was awkward, a lot of nervous laughter and dead air. But her voice, it wasn't what I expected. Softer, slower, like she was holding something back. She said she didn't like talking on the phone because her husband used to listen in. Used to? I asked. Yeah, he's not really around anymore, she said. Don't worry about it, I didn't. I should have. We talked every night for weeks. Sometimes she'd get quiet, say things like, "Do you ever feel like someone's watching us?" Or you'd tell me if someone was behind me, right? It sounded like teasing, but there was something in her tone that didn't feel like a joke. I brushed it off. Everyone online was a little strange back then. That was part of the charm. Then one night I logged in and saw a new username in the chat, Katie's husband. At first I thought it was her, some weird roleplay thing. But the account started typing immediately. "Stop talking to my wife, Adam, I know where you live." I stared at the screen. My first thought was that someone was trolling us. But my stomach turned when I traced the IP. It was local, Cleveland, my city. I messaged Katie in a private window. "Is this you?" "What's going on?" She didn't respond for several minutes. When she did, it was one word. "Don't." Then she logged off. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound in the apartment felt amplified. The tick of the clock, the whir of the fridge, the faint hum of the router. Around 3 a.m., I unplugged my computer, convinced that would help. It didn't. The next morning, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. Subject line, "You shouldn't have ignored me." No message body, just a photo. My car parked outside my apartment. That's when I called the police. They took a report but didn't take me seriously. Probably an online prank, the officer said. "Don't feed it, I deleted everything. The app, the chat logs, the backups." I moved apartments 2 months later. New neighborhood, new number, new start. For a while it worked until the package arrived. No return address, just my name written in blocky handwriting on a plain cardboard box. It was heavier than it looked. I carried it to the kitchen counter. the cardboard damp with the smell of something metallic. When I opened it, there was a kitchen knife inside, standard size wooden handle, streaked with something dark and dried. Underneath, a folded piece of paper. She says, "Hi." I dropped it. My body went cold, like every part of me suddenly remembered how close I'd let a stranger get. The police came again, took the knife for testing. Weeks later, they told me there were no fingerprints, no DNA match. The return label was a fake. They said the package likely came from out of state. They didn't believe me when I said I recognized the handwriting from Katie's notes. After that, I stopped trusting the quiet. Every flicker on the monitor, every pop of the radiator became proof that someone was there. I started waking up at 2:17 a.m. every night, the same time she used to message me. I told myself it was coincidence that my body had just learned to expect her. But one night my computer booted on by itself. The monitor filled with static, then a chat window opened. The username, North Sky. My own, the message, "Why did you stop talking to me?" I yanked the power cord out of the wall, heart pounding so hard I could taste metal. But when I looked down, the modem lights were still blinking, data moving. That night I slept with the lights on. Weeks passed. The world outside went on, people commuting, living, loving. But my apartment grew smaller, darker. I covered the windows. I disconnected the phone. I couldn't risk another message. Then one night there was a knock at the door. 3 sharp raps. I didn't move. "Adam?" The voice was muffled. "Female, it's me, Katie." I froze. It couldn't be. I hadn't told her this address. "Nobody had. I just want to talk," she said softly. "Please, you don't understand. I didn't open it." I stood there holding my breath until my lungs screamed. After a minute, silence. Then footsteps, slow, fading. The next morning, I checked the peephole, nothing. But when I opened the door, there was a small photo taped to it. My face, taken through the fisheye lens of the peephole itself. That was when something inside me broke. I left town for a while, crashing on a friend's couch in Toledo. I told him I needed space from work. I didn't tell him I was afraid of my own computer, but fear follows you. It hides in the blinking lights, the unseen signals bouncing invisibly around you. The last night I was there, I heard his home phone ring, the one plugged into the wall, the one nobody ever used. He answered, paused, then handed it to me, face pale. "It's for you." My hand shook as I lifted the receiver. "Hey, Adam." The voice was familiar, soft, sweet static in the background. "You moved again." I didn't like that. I hung up so hard the cord snapped from the base, the police traced nothing. They always found nothing. Years later, when technology evolved, I tried again. New email, new social accounts, new firewall. But fear doesn't delete easily. Every time I got a new message, I'd feel that old twinge. Then, last year, someone created an account with my old username, North Sky. I hadn't used it in over a decade. The first post was just a photo, a kitchen knife glinting under fluorescent light. Caption, "Some things never dull." I deactivated everything again, but the damage was done. Now my world is smaller than ever. No phone, no laptop, just an old analog TV and a landline I keep unplugged. But sometimes late at night the TV flickers even when it's off, static humming faintly like a voice trying to shape itself from noise. I tell myself it's interference, a power surge, but the pattern of the flicker feels deliberate. Long, short, long, almost like Morse code. I started writing the pattern down once, convinced it was random. But when I looked at it again, the dots and dashes spelled one word. I smashed the remote that night. But even now I swear I hear something behind the screen. A whisper between signals, too faint to catch but too real to ignore. Sometimes I think about Katie, about what she really was. Maybe she was just a lonely woman, maybe a fabrication, or maybe, and this is the thought that keeps me awake, maybe there was never a she at all. Maybe it was him. Maybe the husband was always the one behind the keyboard. And maybe he still is. Last week, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, no handwriting, just a printed slip of paper inside. You changed your name, but your voice never changes. I burned it immediately. Now, every time my phone buzzes with a wrong number, every spam email, every glitch in the static of my television, I wonder if it's him trying to reach through. Because some ghosts don't need to die to haunt you. Some just need Wi-Fi. And when the router light blinks at night, slow and rhythmic, I can almost convince myself it's random. Almost. Until I remember that the signal only pulses when I'm typing. And that somewhere, on some forgotten channel, buried beneath the surface of the web, someone else is typing back. It started with the color pink, soft, harmless, almost romantic, like something that should have made me smile. But now every time I see that color, my stomach knots until I feel sick. I'm June Carver, 21, literature major at Willow Ridge University in Madison, Wisconsin, a campus that smells like rain and burnt coffee, where autumn wind rattles dead leaves against the old brick walls. My life was small but peaceful. Mornings at the cafe near Langston Hall, evenings in the library's quiet wing. I liked routines. Routines made me feel safe. Until the notes began. The first one showed up in my locker the day after midterms. A square of pink paper folded into a neat triangle, inside a line written in black ink. "You looked beautiful in blue today." At first I laughed. Someone in my dorm must have been bored. A harmless crush or a joke. Still, I showed it to my roommate Alana, who was lying on her bed scrolling through her phone. "Creepy or sweet?" I asked. She barely looked up. "Depends who it's from." I slipped the note into my backpack, trying not to feel flattered. It wasn't like I got attention often. I was quiet, the kind of girl professors forgot to call on. But the next day there was another. Same pink paper, same handwriting. "You have a lovely laugh." That one unsettled me. I hadn't laughed much in class. Maybe he'd seen me at the cafe chatting with the barista. It could have been anyone. By the third note, the tone shifted. "You shouldn't stay up so late. It's not good for you." That one I didn't laugh off, because that night I'd been alone in my dorm, lights off, working on a paper until after midnight. I started walking with my head down, eyes scanning for pink. Every locker, every book slipped under my door made my pulse quicken. I told myself it was paranoia, that someone was just guessing, playing a long prank. But how could they know my schedule? When I finally mentioned it again to Alana, she rolled her eyes. "You're overthinking it. People are just weird. Maybe it's some guy trying to flirt." "Then why won't he say who he is?" I asked. She shrugged. "Maybe he's shy." Shy. That word stuck with me. Still, the next note came anyway. "Your hair looked different today. I like it better natural." I remember my hands shaking as I tore it up. That was the first night I pushed my desk against the door before sleeping. The following week I met Liam. He sat next to me in ethics, the class everyone joked about sleeping through. He had that kind of boy-next-door kindness, easy smile, soft-spoken. He noticed my nervous fidgeting before anyone else did. "You okay?" he asked after class one day when everyone else had left. "Yeah, just tired." He didn't believe me. "You look like someone who's waiting for something bad to happen." I didn't tell him about the notes, not yet. But his concern stayed with me. The first genuine warmth I'd felt in weeks. When he asked if I wanted to grab coffee, I hesitated, then said yes. It felt good to say yes to something. That night when I came back to my dorm, there was a pink note under the door. "You looked happy today. I don't like that." The edges of the paper were wet, like it had been in someone's hand too long. From that point, everything changed. I deleted my social media. I stopped walking alone. Still, I felt watched. In the dining hall, in class, even in the bathroom mirror, that prickling sense that eyes followed every move. Alana teased me gently, trying to lighten the mood. "Girl, if you've got a secret admirer, maybe just meet him. Put him out of his misery." "It's not admiration," I said quietly. "It's ownership." The night I told Liam about it, his face darkened. "That's not funny, June. You need to tell someone." I did. "Campus security said they can't do anything without proof." He sighed, frustrated. "Then I'll walk you home from now on." He did. For a week straight, we walked together after night classes, the lamplight stretching our shadows across the wet pavement. It almost felt normal again. Almost. Then one morning I woke to another note. Slipped under my door, folded twice. "I saw you give him your number." That hurt, my throat closed. I tore it up, flushed it down the toilet, then threw up. The next days blurred. Sleep came in fragments. Every time my phone buzzed, my body jolted. I started avoiding the library because the aisles of books felt like corridors someone could hide behind. Liam noticed. "You're scaring me," he said one afternoon in the courtyard. "I think he's following me," I whispered. "He knows where I live, what I wear, who I talk to." He reached across the table, squeezed my hand. "We'll go to the police again, together." But that night something else happened. I was studying at the library, the storm outside tapping its long fingers against the windows. When I finally packed up around midnight, the campus was empty. The air smelled like wet pavement and electricity. The moment I stepped into the parking lot, I heard it, footsteps, slow, deliberate. I turned. Nothing. I walked faster, heartbeat syncing with the rhythm behind me. When I glanced back again, I saw a figure standing under a broken lamppost. Tall, still, face obscured by shadow. "Who's there?" I called out. No answer. Then he moved. A hand shot out from behind me before I could scream, clamping around my throat. The air vanished. My bag dropped, papers scattering across the asphalt. The scent of aftershave filled my lungs, sharp, familiar, expensive. His grip tightened. "Why are you doing this?" I gasped, voice strangled. "You were supposed to be mine," he whispered. The world blurred, wet, metallic, tilting. Then, a shout. Liam's voice. A blur of motion, a flash of fists, a grunt of pain. The grip loosened. I fell hard, scraping my palms, the rain soaking through my clothes. I remember screaming his name, but my voice was buried in the chaos. There was a thud, then silence. When I looked up, the man was gone. The aftermath didn't feel like relief. It felt like disbelief stretched thin. The campus police came. Lights flashed blue and red against the rain-soaked asphalt. I sat on the curb wrapped in a blanket while they asked questions I barely heard. "Did you get a good look at him?" "No." "Someone you know?" "I don't think so." They searched the lot, found nothing. No footprints, no weapon, no trace. Liam had a split lip and blood on his knuckles. "He ran when I hit him," he told the officers. I couldn't see his face, hoodie, maybe gloves. When they left, he walked me back to my dorm. Every step felt heavier than the last. At the door, he turned to me. "You should go home for a while." "This place isn't safe." "I can't," I said. "If I leave, he wins." But the words didn't convince even me. I barely slept that night. Every creak of the floorboard sent my heart racing. The window looked like a black mirror, reflecting only my fear back at me. In the morning, a maintenance worker knocked. "We found something near the lot," he said, holding out a small evidence bag. Inside was a scrap of pink paper, soaked and torn, the ink almost washed away. All I could read was, "You ruined everything." I thought the attacks would stop after that. They didn't. I started finding things out of place. My door unlocked when I was sure I'd locked it. My phone buzzing with unknown numbers that hung up after one ring. Once I woke to my desk light on and my window open, the curtains fluttering inward. I called Liam, crying. "He's been here," he came running. Checked the room, every corner, every drawer. "There's nobody, June," he said, though his voice didn't sound convinced. "Maybe he just wants you to think he's still around." But when I picked up my pillow that night, there was a piece of pink paper underneath. "Stop pretending you're the victim." That was when I broke. I packed a bag, went home to my parents' house 3 hours away. They welcomed me with pity in their eyes, the kind people reserve for someone they think is fragile. My mom made tea, my dad installed new locks. I tried to feel safe, but safety had become abstract. Even in my old bedroom, surrounded by childhood posters and the hum of crickets, I'd wake to shadows that didn't belong. A car idling outside too long, a branch tapping the window in a rhythm that felt intentional. One night around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed on the nightstand. An unknown number. No message, just an image file. My finger hovered over it for a long time before I opened it. It was a picture of me, sitting at the dining table that morning. The timestamp read 4 hours before I'd even arrived home. The phone slipped from my hand. My mom rushed in, alarmed by the sound, but I couldn't speak. Police came again, investigated, promised protection. Nothing ever came of it. Months later, I returned to campus for my final semester. It felt wrong to let fear dictate my life. People moved on. No one remembered the girl who'd been attacked behind the library. I walked through the halls, pretending not to glance at the lockers, at the walls, at the faint discoloration near mine where the first note had been taped. I told myself it was over, that I was stronger now, until the day I walked into the library and saw a freshman carrying a pink notebook. It shouldn't have meant anything. But my chest clenched. The color, that awful soft shade, I couldn't breathe. She caught my stare, confused, and I forced a smile, muttering something about déjà vu. But my hands were trembling again. That night, I found another note under my door. "You're still being watched." The handwriting was different, smaller, neater, but the message was the same. I called Liam, panicking, but his number had been disconnected. For the first time in a long while, I wondered if he'd been real either, if my memory had blurred everything together. Maybe I imagined parts of it. Maybe trauma distorts truth. But the next morning, when I stepped outside, there was something drawn on the pavement in chalk. A pink heart. Inside it, my name, and beneath, in small letters, "You looked beautiful in blue today. I don't go out after dark anymore." When I see a flash of pink, a notebook, a shirt, a flyer taped to a pole, my breath catches, and my pulse goes wild. Because I know what it means. Love isn't what stalkers feel. It's possession. And the ones who say they love you most are the ones who never stop looking for you, even when you've forgotten their face. Sometimes, late at night, I think I hear footsteps outside my window, but I don't check anymore, because the truth is worse than not knowing who's out there. It's knowing that one day they'll decide to stop watching and finally come inside. It took me a year to download Tinder again, a year to stop flinching when someone said my name softly, to believe that not every smile hid a threat. That's what they don't tell you about healing. It's not about moving on. It's about convincing yourself the world isn't still hunting you. I'm Ivy Lang, 30, freelance copywriter from Providence, Rhode Island. I work from my apartment, the kind of space that feels too quiet once the laptop closes. Muted light, walls the color of bone. A faint hum from the radiator that sounds too much like breathing when I'm half asleep. It's been 2 years since Evan, the man who loved me so hard he almost killed me. I've rebuilt piece by piece, therapy, routines, control. My therapist calls it progress. I call it pretending. When I matched with Caleb, I wasn't looking for anything real. His profile was unassuming, a crooked smile, a photo with a dog, a quote from a book I actually liked. His messages were careful, thoughtful. He didn't rush. He asked about my work, my favorite coffee, the view from my window. He said he liked slow mornings and walking in the rain. It all sounded harmless. We agreed to meet at the Willow Cafe, a quiet spot tucked off Benefit Street. It always smells like cinnamon and rain, with chipped mugs and soft music humming just below conversation. I told myself it was safe. Public, daylight, plenty of exits. When I arrived, he was already there. Caleb tan sweater, kind eyes, hair slightly unkempt in a way that looks intentional. He stood when he saw me, his smile easy. Ivy, right? It felt normal, painfully, beautifully normal. We talked about work, travel, coffee. He listened well, maybe too well. Every word I said, he watched like it was important. He complimented my dress, my laugh, my eyes. Too often, too easily. But I didn't notice the pattern until later. By the second coffee, the conversation had shifted. Subtly at first. He asked about my family, my friends. Then quietly about my ex. Was he the reason you stopped dating? He asked. Something like that. He smiled. I can't imagine anyone hurting you. You seem careful. The way he said careful, like it was both admiration and a challenge, made my stomach tighten. Then he noticed my phone light up on the table. A message from my sister, just checking in. You always check your phone this much? I laughed it off. Occupational hazard. Freelance, remember? Still, seems distracting. He smiled, but his eyes didn't. Something in me shifted. The cafe's warmth felt thinner, like the temperature had dropped. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. Who's texting you? I blinked. Just my sister. He nodded slowly. You sure? You smiled when you looked at it. There it was, that old familiar tone. Soft, possessive, disguised as concern. My throat closed the way it used to before the shouting started, before Evan's voice filled the walls. I forced a smile. She's fine. I should check on her, though. He tilted his head. So soon? She's at the hospital. Car accident. The lie came out fast, instinctive, polished by survival. His hand reached across the table, landing over mine, not gentle. "Don't make me feel ignored," he whispered. I froze. Something primal flared inside me. The ghost of every time I'd been cornered, every moment I'd stayed too long. I smiled, the way women are taught to when they're afraid, and said, "You're right. I'm sorry. I just need to check in real quick." Then I stood, calm, deliberate. He looked up at me, something unreadable flickering across his face. Disappointment? Amusement? Ownership? "I'll walk you out," he said. "No need. It's right around the corner. Please, I insist." I stepped backward toward the door, smiling, nodding, playing the role of a woman not terrified out of her skin. Maybe next time. When I reached the corner, I ran. By the time I got home, my lungs burned and my hands were shaking so hard I dropped my keys twice. I locked every deadbolt, turned off every light, and sat on the floor listening to my pulse. I didn't call anyone. I didn't tell my therapist. I just deleted the app, but deleting isn't erasing. That night, I dreamt of the cafe, the smell of cinnamon, the scrape of his chair, the sound of his voice folding into the background noise like it belonged there. I woke at 3:17 a.m., certain someone was outside. The hallway light under my door looked too bright, as if someone was standing in it. Nothing was there. The next morning, I told myself I'd imagined it. That trauma teaches you to see ghosts in every shadow. Then I made the mistake of searching his name, Caleb Hurst. The first result was a dating forum thread titled, "Warning, do not meet this man." There were half a dozen posts. Women describing the same gestures, same smile, same phrases. "You seem careful. Don't make me feel ignored." One woman said he'd shown up at her workplace. Another said he'd found her home address. My stomach dropped. The last post was dated 3 weeks ago. The woman said he'd followed her to her car after she tried to end the date. No follow-up comment. I slammed the laptop shut. The sound echoed too loudly in my apartment. I took a shower, left the bathroom light on, stared at the water spiraling into the drain. I told myself it was over, that he didn't know where I lived, that I'd gotten away early enough. Then came the message, no text, just a photo me leaving the cafe, head turned slightly looking back. The same blue dress, my expression unaware. The caption, "You looked beautiful running away." I dropped the phone. The screen cracked when it hit the tile. I called the police. The officer's voice was patient, almost kind, but distant. "Could be a prank. Could be someone catfishing you." "He touched me," I said. "He knew where I was. But he didn't threaten you, right?" "Not directly?" Silence. They took a report, but nothing else. "No immediate danger," they said. That night I moved my dresser against the door. Sleep became impossible. I started hearing things, the faint scrape of wood, the creak of floorboards. My phone buzzed at random intervals, always from blocked numbers. Sometimes there were voicemails, static and breathing. Sometimes a man's voice humming something soft and tuneless. Once I woke to the sound of my name whispered just outside the window. The next morning, the police found nothing, but my mailbox was stuffed with junk flyers, and between them, folded pink paper. The handwriting was precise, slanted. You didn't have to lie. I quit my job the next day. Moved apartments. Changed my number. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was one step behind me. Watching through mirrors I couldn't see. 3 weeks later, I was walking home from the grocery store when I saw him. Across the street. Leaning against a lamppost, phone in hand. He smiled when our eyes met, a slow, knowing curve of the mouth. Then he turned and vanished into the crowd. I ran the rest of the way home. Inside, the apartment felt wrong. The air too still, the shadows too sharp. I checked the locks, the windows, the closet. That's when I saw it, taped to my mirror, a Polaroid me again. At the cafe, smiling, mid-laugh. Behind me, slightly blurred Caleb staring directly at the camera. I tore it down, hands shaking so badly I could barely hold it. There was something written on the back. "You're so easy to find." The next morning, I booked a motel outside town under a fake name. I kept my phone off, curtains drawn. I stayed there for 5 days, leaving only once to buy food. On the 5th night, I woke to a sound that froze my blood, the soft scrape of a chair. It came from outside my door, deliberate, dragging across cheap carpet, then a whisper. "Ivy, you can stop pretending." I just want to talk. I didn't move, didn't breathe. The peephole showed nothing but a shadow. The voice came again, lower now. "You made me feel ignored." I called 911, whispering my location. The operator kept me talking until I heard sirens. When the police arrived, the hallway was empty. They found the motel's security footage. The camera outside my room had gone black 15 minutes before the call. The last frame before the outage showed a man in a tan sweater, carrying a chair. I live differently now. Always moving, never staying long. My blinds stay closed, my phone face down. I memorize exits in every building. Sometimes I catch myself scrolling through new profiles, the part of me that still wants to believe in normal. Once, I saw him again, or someone who looked like him. A different name, same eyes, same crooked smile. I reported it. The profile disappeared the next day, but last night I got a message request from an unlisted number. No text, just an image, a coffee cup, cinnamon foam shaped into a heart. The message underneath. "I found another cafe. We can start over." I deleted it. Then I sat in the dark until dawn, listening, because there's a sound that never leaves me now. The soft scrape of his chair as he stood to follow. And sometimes, in the quiet, I swear I hear it again, closer this time, always closer. I've always believed danger announces itself. A sound, a shadow, a feeling in your gut. But sometimes it just sends a smiling emoji. I'm Lucas Hale, 28, software consultant from Naperville, Illinois in Chicago, for a client project that had already eaten half my sanity and all my evenings. The hotel room I was staying in smelled like detergent and old carpet, its silence thick enough to hear my own breathing. After 3 nights of microwave dinners and reruns humming faintly from the next room, I reinstalled Bumble. That's how I met Teresa Quinn. Her profile wasn't like the others. No filters, no forced poses, just soft, natural photos. A woman with auburn hair and a crooked smile, standing on a pier at dusk, wind pulling at her scarf. Her bio was short, playful. "I make bad coffee and worse decisions." I sent a message that made her laugh. That laugh, even in text form, hooked me. We talked for days, about music, about the strangeness of city life, about loneliness. She told me she'd just moved to Chicago from Michigan, that she was still learning her way around. There was a steadiness in her tone, like someone trying to start over but still soft enough to be hurt. I believed her. By Thursday, we'd planned to meet. She suggested a late coffee after my shift, 10:30 at a cafe on Wabash. But at 10:47, just as I was shutting down my laptop, my phone buzzed again. "Teresa. Change of plans. Meet me at the Red House on Halsted. It's quieter." The emoji stopped me cold. She never used them before. Not once. Her messages were always dry, wry, punctuation perfect. And the way she phrased it, the Red House, sounded rehearsed, like a line from a script. Still, curiosity is a powerful narcotic. I told myself she'd just found a better spot. Something cozy, spontaneous. But when I typed, "Sure, see you soon," my fingers hesitated. I deleted it, then retyped it, then hit send anyway. The drive took 15 minutes. Rain had been on and off all day, leaving the streets slick and reflective. The industrial stretch of Halsted was nearly deserted. Warehouses and body shops hunched together like sleeping beasts. The Red House appeared at the end of the block, if you could call it that. Faded brick, boarded windows, paint peeling like burnt skin. No lights, no cars, just a single street lamp buzzing faintly, its cone of yellow light flickering like a dying pulse. My GPS blinked. "Destination on your right." I parked half a block away and kept the engine running. The building looked abandoned, but something about it felt wrong. Too intentionally still, like a stage waiting for actors. That's when I saw movement. 2 men, leaning against the far wall, pretending to smoke. The faint glow of their lighters pulsed in rhythm. too synchronized to be casual. No Teresa. No footsteps. My throat tightened. I rolled my window halfway down, listening. Wind. Distant hum of traffic. A dog barking somewhere far away. Then, the faint buzz of a phone lighting up. One of the men's faces glowed blue. He lifted it to his ear, said something too low to hear. The other turned toward the street, toward me. He wasn't pretending to smoke anymore, I didn't think. I just shifted into drive and rolled through the intersection like it was nothing, like I wasn't swallowing panic. In the rear view, I caught one last glimpse. The man's head tilting, tracking me, the faint shine of a grin as he raised the phone again. By the time I hit the main road, my hands were slick on the steering wheel. I didn't stop until I reached the hotel. Inside, the elevator mirrors threw my reflection back at me, pale, shaking, eyes too wide. I locked my door, drew the curtains, and sat on the edge of the bed, replaying it all. The emoji, the location change, the men. I opened Bumble. Teresa Quinn's profile was gone. Deleted, not unmatched, gone. Her entire digital footprint, the thread, the photos, the chat history, wiped clean. For a long time, I just stared at the blank space where her name had been. The next morning I told myself to let it go, to file it under almost stupid decisions and move on. But part of me needed to see it again, to prove it was real. So, before work, I drove back down Halsted. Same block, same silence. But this time, a car was parked out front. Different one, black sedan, engine idling. A man sat inside, hood up, hands on the wheel. Not the same face, but the same posture. Waiting. Watching. I didn't stop, didn't even slow down. It hit me then. Whatever was happening there wasn't about one woman or one match. It was systematic. A setup. They weren't looking for her, they were using her. They were fishing. I told a coworker over lunch, trying to make it sound like a weird story, not a confession. He laughed nervously. Man, that's creepy. But hey, you got lucky. I smiled, nodded, pretended it was fine. But the laughter stuck in my chest like a splinter. That night, I kept my lights on. Every sound outside my hotel room made me jump. Footsteps in the hall, elevator dings, the soft mechanical sigh of the HVAC system. At 2:13 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. You went to the wrong house. My breath caught. I stared at the screen until it dimmed. Then, almost on instinct, I typed back, "Who is this?" 3 dots blinked. Then nothing. The number went dead. I didn't sleep again. The next day I went to the police. The officer behind the desk looked skeptical. "So you didn't actually meet anyone?" "No, but..." "And you didn't see a crime occur?" "I think there's a setup happening. They're using dating apps to lure people." He sighed. "Look, I'll file a report, but unless there's evidence or a victim, there's not much we can do. Happens online every day. Be careful who you meet, right?" That phrase, "be careful, who you meet," stayed with me the rest of the day, echoing like an accusation. Back at the office, I couldn't focus. Every time my phone buzzed, my stomach clenched. At 5:22 p.m., I got another message. Unknown. You're smart. Most don't turn around. I deleted the app, wiped my phone, and packed early for home. Driving back to Naperville, I kept checking my mirrors. I told myself I was being paranoid. Trauma creates phantoms after all. But around Joliet, I noticed the same black sedan 2 cars back. I took 3 random exits. It followed everyone. When I finally pulled into a gas station, I parked near the store entrance where the lights were brightest. The sedan slowed, idled for a moment, then rolled past. The driver's face was obscured, but I saw his phone glow blue. Then he was gone. I stayed inside the store for half an hour before daring to leave. Home didn't feel like home anymore. I closed my blinds, turned off location sharing, deleted every social media account I had, but the fear didn't fade. It sharpened. I kept thinking about the other car I'd seen that morning outside the red house. The next date, the next bait. Whoever was running it wasn't just targeting one city. They were hunting patterns. People like me, young, alone, out of town, looking for connection. A perfect algorithm of vulnerability. A week later, I woke to another text. Unknown. You were supposed to meet Teresa. Attached was a photo, not of me, another man. Early 30s, clean cut, sitting in a car, window cracked open, blood on the seat. The timestamp read 10:59 p.m. The same night I was supposed to go. I dropped my phone. When I picked it back up, the message was gone. Deleted, no number, no trace. Just the echo of that smiling emoji burned into my brain. Since then, I've seen her face again. Not on Bumble, but on other apps, under other names. Always the same pattern. Soft lighting, easy smile, 3 photos that look too real to question. Every time I report it, the profile disappears within hours. But new ones always appear. Different names, same woman, same smile. Sometimes I think about messaging her again, not out of loneliness, but to understand, to ask why. Then I remember the glow of the phone in that man's hand, the way he looked up when I drove past. How close I came to stepping out of the car. It's been 4 months now. I still travel for work, but I don't use apps anymore. I don't meet strangers, don't trust coincidences. But sometimes, late at night, when the hotel hallways go quiet, my phone still buzzes, always from an unknown number. Sometimes it's blank. Sometimes it's just a single emoji, the same yellow smile. Last night it came again, but this time the message said something new. You're smart, Lucas, maybe you should help us instead. And I swear, when I looked out my hotel window, 5th floor, same kind of room, same flickering streetlight, I saw it parked across the street. The black sedan, engine idling, waiting, fishing. And for one terrible suspended second, I felt the smallest flicker of temptation. Because curiosity, after all, still wears the same mask as hope. And sometimes, it just smiles. Some first dates wound you in ways no scar can show. I'm Renee Hollis, 32, freelance editor from Columbus, Ohio, and I can tell you the exact sound loneliness makes. It's the hollow tick of a clock at 11:47 p.m., when your apartment hums with the soft static of nothing but your own breathing. It's the glow of your computer screen asking, "Are you still there?" When no one is. I had been living in that quiet for months, working, editing, scrolling, sleeping. A loop of cautious existence. Until one small notification pulled me back toward the world. You have a new match. Her name was Charlene. Her profile was simple. 3 photos, all warm but unposed. She wore a denim jacket in one, a scarf in another, hair catching the edge of sunlight. Her bio said, kindness first. I like thunderstorms and bad poetry. Her first message read, you seem real. That's what hooked me. I didn't know how to respond at first. Real felt like a challenge, but I typed back, trying my best. She sent a laughing emoji followed by, same. From there, it was easy. We talked about everything, music, language, the strange ways small towns hide people like us. She said she admired my courage for living honestly, a phrase that warmed and unsettled me in equal measure. But she meant it gently, I thought. Not like a headline, not like a reminder of every scar I'd earned trying to just be. We moved fast, but not recklessly. She asked about books. I asked about her favorite meals. We traded playlists. She said she liked that I edited other people's words. It must mean you notice details, she said once. I remember smiling at that line for too long. After 3 weeks, she suggested meeting. Pine and Birch Cafe, she said. Saturday noon. Neutral, bright, safe. I liked that she picked a public place. It showed thoughtfulness, respect. That morning I wore my favorite gray sweater, the one soft enough to feel like armor. It was early March, snow still clinging to curbs in gray piles. I left early, nerves buzzing, and drove across town with a thermos of coffee and an ache of hope I didn't want to name. When I arrived, the cafe windows glowed gold from the inside. The place smelled of espresso and cinnamon, sunlight pooling on wood tables. I scanned for her. Curly auburn hair, the scarf, that quiet poise from her photos. Instead, a man stood up, mid-50s, buttoned shirt, polite smile. He looked like someone who still ironed his jeans. He said my name. Renee, right? I hesitated. Yes. And you are? He gestured to the chair across from him. Charlene's father. The words slid through the air, wrong, like static on a perfect song. I half laughed, waiting for the punchline, but none came. Then I saw the phone in his hand. Charlene's profile, our messages, my own words staring back at me from his screen. My stomach dropped and a chill crawled up my spine. I think there's been a mistake. He didn't look up. No mistake. I just wanted to understand the kind of person my daughter's been talking to. His tone was smooth, but there was something rehearsed about it, like he'd practiced this moment. He leaned back. You've had surgeries, right? The question was so clinical, so casual. It took a second for meaning to settle. My breath caught. I'm sorry, what? He tilted his head, eyes sharp now. Before or after you tell people? I'm curious how it works, this lifestyle. The cafe sound dimmed. The chatter, the hiss of the espresso machine, all of it bled into a dull ring in my ears. I don't think this conversation is appropriate. My voice was steady, though my heart wasn't. He smiled, that same too polite curve. I'm not judging. Just trying to understand what my daughter's caught up in. It's a father's right to know. Something cold clicked inside me. A small, precise rage. I stood. You don't get to use your daughter's name to interrogate me. For a moment, neither of us moved. His expression flickered, shock, then something darker. He opened his mouth, but before he could speak, the barista approached. Sir, is everything okay here? She asked, voice calm but firm. He straightened, adjusting his cuffs. We were just talking. Her eyes darted to me. You good? I nodded, but she didn't buy it. Sir, I think it's time you left. His jaw tensed. You don't understand? I do, she said. Leave, now. He muttered something about truth and sin and walked out, pushing the door so hard the bell above it screamed. When the sound faded, the air felt too still. The barista, her name tag said Ava, brought me water. You know that guy? I shook my head. I thought I did. I stayed there long after he left. My hands trembled over the cup, the water shaking slightly. My reflection in the window looked unfamiliar, smaller somehow. At 12:49, a message popped up. Charlene, I'm so sorry. Please don't hate me. The photo was the same. The words felt different. I typed back slowly. What happened? She replied, he found my phone. I didn't know he'd message you. I swear. I stared at her words until the letters blurred. Part of me wanted to believe her. Part of me wondered if she even existed, or if the man had created everything. I didn't answer. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling of being seen. Every reflection looked too sharp, too intentional. I double-checked my locks, turned my phone face down, unplugged my laptop. But the thought of him, his calm voice, his ownership of me as a topic, looped endlessly. You can armor yourself against many things: rejection, cruelty, even heartbreak. But not invasion. Not when someone reaches into your story and makes it theirs. I didn't go online for days. When I finally opened the app again, Charlene's profile was gone, deleted. But my messages, those small confessions, those soft things I'd shared, had been screenshotted, sent to my email, from a blank address, no subject. Just a line of text. You shouldn't pretend to be something you're not. I deleted it, emptied the trash, shut my laptop. The cursor blinked in my mind for hours. Weeks passed. I told no one. Not my friends, not my therapist. It felt too humiliating, too complicated to explain that what hurt most wasn't the threat. It was the theft. The taking of something delicate. But the fear found small ways back in. Every time a man lingered too long near me at the grocery store. Every time I saw someone watching in a cafe window. Then one afternoon, a letter came. No return address. Inside, a printed photo. Me at Pine and Birch sitting at the table that day. My expression half confused, half afraid. Taken from outside the window. On the back, you were brave. I see why she liked you. My hands shook so violently I tore it in half. I went to the police. The officer glanced at the photo, frowned. Any threats? Physical contact? He's watching me. But you don't know who he is. You didn't get his last name? I shook my head. He used a fake one, the officer sighed. Without more, there's not much to go on. Just stay alert. Maybe change your routine. Change your routine. As if that erased what had been done. After that, I stopped sleeping near windows. I rearranged the furniture so my back never faced the glass. I muted notifications, deleted my profile entirely, burned the printed letter in the sink. Still, the feeling didn't leave. The sense that I was being studied. That weekend, I went to Pine and Birch again. I told myself it was about reclaiming the space. It wasn't. I sat by the window pretending to read, but really just watching the reflection in the glass. Everyone who came in, every face that lingered. Then I saw him across the street. Same blue button down. He didn't look at me directly, just leaned against a lamppost, phone in hand. Like before, my blood turned to ice. I blinked. And when my eyes opened, he was gone. Later that evening, I received another message. Unknown number. It's brave of you to keep showing up. Attached was another photo. Same cafe. Same window. Taken that morning, the police traced nothing. Spoofed number, they said. Probably harassment. Block and ignore. As if you can unsee someone rewriting your story in real time. It's been 3 months now. I've moved apartments, switched numbers, changed emails. But sometimes when I open a new document for work, I'll find a blank page with a single sentence typed in, even though I didn't write it. Do you still think truth makes you safe? I delete it every time, and sometimes in cafes, I still catch people watching me too long, that quiet. Polite curiosity that masks something uglier. The horror isn't the stranger who wants to hurt you. It's the one who thinks they have the right to understand you. The one who believes your life is an explanation owed to them. And when I close my eyes at night, I still hear that cafe bell, sharp, shrill, endless, like it's trying to warn me that some doors once opened, never close again. Because some betrayals don't come from monsters, they come from the ones who smile first and call it concern. I never thought much about strangers. Working at Langley's department store in Aurora, Illinois, you learn to smile, make small talk, and forget faces by closing time. But I remembered Jake. He wasn't remarkable at first glance. Average height, soft brown hair that never seemed to settle, glasses that slipped down the bridge of his nose every few minutes. He was quiet, stammering a little, always fumbling his wallet at the register. The kind of guy who apologized even when it wasn't his fault. The kind of man you let your guard down around because you feel bad for not doing so. That night, the store smelled faintly of floor polish and burnt coffee from the break room. I'd just clocked out. The rain outside spitting against the glass doors in thin diagonal streaks. Jake was waiting near the exit, hands in his pockets, pretending to browse the clearance rack of Christmas ornaments. He turned when I walked past. "Hey, Rosie?" The way he said my name was hesitant, like it tasted new to him. I smiled, automatically, professionally, before realizing he wasn't holding a receipt or return. "Hey," I said. "Forgot something?" He chuckled softly. "No, I just, wanted to ask if maybe you wanted to grab a coffee sometime. You know, since you're always working when I'm here, and I should have said no. I didn't even know why I didn't. Maybe it was the way he looked slightly nervous, like the question was costing him courage. Maybe it was because I'd been feeling invisible lately, tired, unseen, my life reduced to the rhythmic beep of a scanner and the hollow chatter of customers who never remembered my name. "Sure," I said. "After my shift Friday?" His face brightened. Yeah, Friday's perfect." He smiled with his whole face then, and for a second, the loneliness in me mistook it for kindness. It was Friday, November 12th, damp and cold enough that the wind stung. The kind of night that smelled of wet asphalt and forgotten leaves. I met Jake at Grayson's Cafe, a small place tucked between a laundromat and an insurance office. He was already there when I arrived, sipping tea and staring at the window like he was watching something outside. He waved when he saw me. "You look..." "Wow, yeah, wow," he said, blushing as soon as the words left his mouth. I laughed. "You're bad at this." "I know," he admitted. Guess I'm out of practice. The conversation was easy enough, about work, movies, how Aurora used to have more snow when we were kids. I remember thinking he seemed harmless, gentle even. When he offered to walk me to my bus stop, it felt like a small kindness. The cafe lights flickered off behind us as the staff locked up. We turned onto the main street, the wet pavement gleaming under the orange streetlights. The bus stop was 4 blocks away. We'd made it halfway when he said, "There's a shortcut through here. Quieter. Safer." He gestured toward a narrow alley between a shuttered bakery and a pawn shop. I hesitated. "I'm fine sticking to the main road." He smiled like it was no big deal. "It cuts the walk in half, promise." I don't know why I followed him. Maybe because he'd been so normal all night and I didn't want to seem rude. Maybe because part of me still believed in the illusion of safety that politeness offers. The alley swallowed the sound of our steps. The air smelled of oil and old rain, of something metallic beneath it all. "This doesn't look like much of a shortcut," I joked, forcing a laugh. He stopped walking. The sound of our footsteps ceased, replaced by the quiet drip of water from a rusted gutter. When he turned, something in his posture shifted. Gone was the slouch, the boyish uncertainty. His shoulders squared and his eyes, those nervous, apologetic eyes, went blank. From the shadows behind a dumpster, another figure emerged, older, heavier. His coat hung open, and I saw the dull gleam of metal in his hand. My pulse stuttered. "Jake?" I whispered. He tilted his head, smiling faintly. "You're too trusting, Rosie." I took a step back. My heel caught on the uneven pavement. "What's happening?" The older man moved closer, boots scraping against the wet ground. Jake's voice softened, almost tender. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." Something inside me snapped then. The fragile part that wanted to reason with him broke under the weight of fear. I turned and ran. The world narrowed to breath and sound. The slap of my shoes, the echo of their pursuit, the rasp of air clawing at my throat. A laugh followed me, high, cold, gleeful. My heel cracked and I stumbled, skin tearing against the concrete. I didn't stop. I burst out of the alley and into the sickly glow of the main road. Headlights flashed, a horn blared, and I darted across, half-blind from tears. The door to my building felt impossibly far. I slammed my key into the lock, hands shaking, and threw myself inside. Silence. Just the ringing in my ears and the taste of metal in my mouth. I told the police everything. 2 men, an alley near Grayson's cafe, one of them named Jake. I described the face I'd seen across the coffee table, the way he smiled, the way the other man's coat had moved. They searched, no records of anyone by that name matching my description, no witnesses. The cameras near the cafe hadn't caught anything except me walking alone. "Could you have imagined it?" one officer asked gently, notebook poised. I didn't imagine running for my life. He nodded, wrote something down, and promised to call if anything turned up. That call never came. For days I couldn't step outside after dark. Every creak of the building made me flinch. The elevator's hum, the neighbors arguing through thin walls. It all felt like background noise for something waiting to happen. I stopped sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the glint of metal, heard Jake's voice, soft, reasonable, inhumanly calm. "You're too trusting, Rosie." A week later, I found something on my doorstep, a paper bag soaked dark at the bottom from rain. Inside was a single red mitten, mine. The one I'd dropped in the alley that night. I called the police again. They took the bag, promised to look into it. But I could tell by their faces that they didn't believe me anymore. That's when the phone calls started. No voice, just breathing, slow, deliberate male. I changed my number twice. It didn't stop. The night I saw him, or thought I saw him, I'd gone to take the trash out. The hallway was empty, silent except for the hum of the vending machine. I stepped into the alley behind the building, and there he was. Or maybe it wasn't him. The man stood at the far end, half hidden in shadow, coat too long, hands in pockets. I froze. He didn't move, didn't speak. Just watched. I backed inside and locked the door. When I looked again through the peephole, the alley was empty. That night I dragged a chair against the door and slept on the couch. Lights on, blanket wrapped tight as armor. Days blurred. I quit my job. Couldn't stand the sound of footsteps behind me, the feeling of being watched. Even the sound of rain brought back that night, the way it whispered against the pavement, how it mixed with my own shallow breaths. Then came the envelope. No return address. Inside was a photo, grainy, printed on cheap paper. Me standing at the bus stop, head turned slightly toward the camera. Below it, in block letters, "I miss our walk. I burned it in the sink." The smoke alarm screamed, and I let it, because at least that sound was real. Something mechanical, predictable, unlike the voices I sometimes thought I heard near the window. I moved apartments after that. Different neighborhood, top floor, better locks. Still, I couldn't shake the sense that I'd only changed the backdrop of my fear. Sometimes at night I see movement reflected in the window, a shape in the glass too close to be a trick of light. When I turn, the room is empty, but I can feel it. That static hum of being observed, the faint warmth of eyes lingering where they shouldn't. I tell myself it's paranoia. That's what trauma does, right? It rewires you until shadows have names, and yet, last night I found fingerprints on the inside of my window. I live on the 6th floor. I double lock the door every evening now. Keep the lights dim so the reflections stay faint. Sometimes I talk to the dark just to fill the silence. You're not real, I tell it. But there's one thing I can't deny. Every time I catch my reflection, I'm never alone in it. There's always another shape, taller, stiller, standing just behind my shoulder, smiling. And I never thought much about strangers. Now I think about them every night.